Welcome to another episode of Ton's Two Cents T2C podcast. Today's discussion is on the Small Business Innovation Research Program, or the SBIR program, with a sharp focus on direct award for SBIR Phase 3. We're peeling back the layers of the SBIR program, especially focusing on the strategic gold mine that is Phase 3. Today, we'll dig deep into how innovative ideas transform into mission-critical capabilities. I'm your host, Ton Wilson, and with us today is Bill Robinson, the president of TriStag Consulting and FC International's Texas Region Vice President. Bill and I have known each other for over 5 years through our volunteer and leadership at various levels of FC International, which I encourage our intellectuals to check out. Bill, thanks for joining us today. And can you say hello to our listeners, who we call intellectuals, and tell them a little bit about yourself? Share a little of your journey and experiences with the SBIR program if you can.
Hey, Ton, and all of your intellectuals out there, thanks very much for having me. It's always so much fun to sit and talk with you. I really enjoy a lot of our deep discussions we have. So I'm a retired Air Force veteran, served almost 21 years. And what's interesting about that is in 2023, I actually turned 20 years retired. And so almost up to now, since we're 2024, about the same amount of time that I served. And what's important with that is it gives some of the diversity that I bring to the table here for this conversation. And that's kind of what I want to highlight a little bit. When I retired doing cybersecurity for the Air Force, I went into helping different companies over the years do business development and capture management, helping them grow their business when you're a subject matter expert. And I've worked for a lot of larges and smalls, kind of typical. Some of those smalls have the socioeconomic status, and even worked for one of our Super 8A. So I'm kind of familiar with all the different acquisition capabilities. And the last company that I went to work for, it was interesting. They came to me at an AFCEA conference and tried to get me to come over, and they're telling me about, hey, we do SBIRs. And I'm like, SBIRs, that's R&D, that's widgets and stuff. That's not me. I'm a cybersecurity guy. And it wasn't until he finally broke it down a whole lot more of how unique that program is and what you can do with it, that I finally got it. And so glad that I did, that I joined over that company to help them. Now I have my own consulting practice. I take on some of my own clients, and I even work for a couple of other 1099s with McFalls Associates and SBIR advisors, helping leading edge technologies take their SBIR capabilities into the hands of the warfighter to really make a difference with their capabilities.
That's great, Bill. And in honor of our friendship and our background, I'm going to have a glass of Weller while we have this discussion. So for those of you bourbon lovers, the bourbon of the day is Weller. But with your vast experience, Bill, in GovCon and SBIRs, and I love how you're not afraid to mention that you did not know about this before. And so we're all kind of learning about it. And this is the great part of being able to share and collaborate, is what was that pivotal moment or project highlighting the potential and impact for SBIR Phase 3 direct awards that kind of shaped the future of small businesses in the defense sector today?
Wow. It was interesting when Mike came, Mike Shirley, the guy who tried to hire me, was telling me about SBIRs, and I was trying to understand a little bit more about how that actually came to be. And he was telling me about the unique aspect of the SBIR program. And as I'm starting to learn the history of this, I'm like, it's been around since 1985. And I'm like, wow, okay. So R&D is typical, right? You hear a lot about it, leading edge technology stuff, which is wonderful. But I'm a cyber guy. I'm a services, right? How does this apply today? And the SBIR program, when you look at it, it was designed to go, hey, we in the government, we got problems. And I don't always have a clearly defined requirement. Sometimes I don't know what I need. So does anybody out there have this? Or how can you help me? And they've really done a great program. The SBA runs it today. And most people hear about the phase 1s and 2s, right? The free money, where the government puts out a need and individual companies will take the time to respond to that and put something forward going, hey, this is how I think you should solve that problem. And this is how we do it for our customers today. And it's interesting when you have an actual government customer who's got that need and they get all these responses, and the whole competitive process of getting it down selected to that uh, one company that could actually build a prototype and actually solve that problem. It's really cool to see how that works. And I can explain a little bit more as we go a little bit deeper later on in the conversation. But this company that I was working for, he had a whole bunch of cyber technologies, had a diverse aspect, and a lot of them had to do with data analytics. And we all know government contracting. What's the one of the three tenets of government contracting is cost, schedule, and performance, right? So if you have a cyber technology that has anything to do with that, guess what? Just that alone justifies the direct award capability. And when I saw that put into place and being able to help him find a customer that actually had a need like that and didn't have an acquisition capability and they liked that technology and wanted to use it, it's a perfect match to really help that government customer solve their acquisition problem at the same time advancing an innovative capability. And I got to see that firsthand a number of times.
Yeah, that's key, right? Is how do we innovatively help government customers solve problems? It's not about, random acquisitions or procurements, and sometimes it is, but it is truly helping our customers with their mission. And it sounds like you've witnessed firsthand how the cyber, landscape has transformed from the foundational history and the pivotal broad agency announcements, or BAA.
Yep.
Yes, listeners, we like our acronyms, and so we're going to be throwing a lot of acronyms in here. So get your acronym finder and Google searches up, but to the emergence of some innovation hubs like AFWorks, NavalX, SoftWorks. They're
Oh
all
yeah.
hungry for the next leading technology. So, can you walk us through this evolution and the pivotal role of direct awards in phase three? It seems to be really a real game changer, isn't just viewing this as another phase, because we hear a lot about phase one and two, but rather how these technologies and capabilities kind of align and support the critical missions.
Yeah, there are a number, like you mentioned, of government organizations that are looking for that innovation. But let's understand something. This is a cyber program for the entire federal government. It's not just the DoD. There are 11 federal agencies today that do that R&D so much that they have their own established program. The DoD is one of the 11, right? So
That's
if you
true.
hear us focusing on the DoD, understand this is a federal government agency, and the Small Business Administration manages this. So, you can kind of tell. Well, first of all, organizations like AFWorks, NavalX, SoftX, all those innovation hubs are standing up today because they realize we're going to beat China and Russia. We're going to need some innovative technology. In the commercial world, there are companies doing this today with that capability in retail and in finance and in manufacturing. They've got great capability, and we do all that in the military, right? In the DoD, and so any of those capabilities is what they're looking for to help solve today's challenges. So when you understand the cyber program, once again, phase one and phase two is research. Phase three, which I don't particularly care for the word phase three, but it's basically if you were to forget about the word phase three altogether. It is about after you've done and proven your technology, go out and sell it, right? So phase one was the concept phase, right? Picture a bar napkin, right? It is the government says, "Hey, I don't know what I need, but can you help me?" And you go, "Yeah, I think you should do it this way," right? If the government likes it and they get maybe 10 responses to that one requirement, then they'll pick one, two, three of them and nominate them all for a phase one award and go, okay, here's a little bit of money, but tell me more about your capability. Let's break it down a little bit more. I like what you've got. You might be able to help me. but understands this is all part of a BAA, like you mentioned, right? And 3 times a year, these things get posted out there, and companies watch for these. But that one government client who put out that need may, of all the ones put in, doesn't mean those 10 are all probably great, but they picked only 3 of them that may help, that they kind of like and think that that may work. In that competitive aspect, they down selected them, they've awarded them, and they says, okay, go explain it a little bit more. And when that information, everybody does their deliverables 6, 8, 10 months later, whatever. That government customer may find one and go, hey, that's the one I think is going to really solve my problem. They'll nominate them for a SBIR Phase 2 award, right? And of course, there's a lot more to it, right? But I'm just trying to simplify it as much as I can. But they picked that one. Doesn't mean the other 2 that got a Phase 1 isn't any good. They just happen to pick this one. And that one will work with that customer over the next year, year and a half, for whatever amount of money that is given, $1 million, whatever the case is, to build out, improve that. So we went from concept phase to prototype phase, right? So now you've got a contract, a Phase 2 contract, and you delivered something for the customer. That means you've proven that your capability works, hopefully, by the time you did your final deliverable, right? So now you have the same thing everybody else has in your company. You got some competitive capability that you're trying to sell. No different than any serviceman who decides to start up their own company. They're a service disabled veteran owned small business that does IT services. Okay. What do they normally do for BD? They go in and sell, hey, we can do all this stuff. You've just proven out in the SBIR program you can do this. You have a capability. But there's the nuance. There's some acquisition benefits in the SBIR program that you don't have if you just stood up your own company all by yourself, because you've been awarded intellectual property rights, and that's what makes the difference. So does that kind? And I wanted to mention too that AFWorks has actually stood up. When they stood up their organization, they came up with a creative way to do a open topic that a lot more services are now doing too, saying, okay, I don't have a government need right now, but if you got something really cool, put it in, nominate it, and if we like it, we'll help you to try to take that all the way forward. And that's what they do with the open topic, which is Air Force is leading the way there when it comes to that. But the Navy's got a great SBIR program. The Army's coming on board a whole lot more. The other service or those other federal agencies, NASA, HHS, they're all doing it. So if you've got a leading edge technology out there, bring it into the SBIR program, and you're going to see that there's a lot more benefits.
Yeah, well, thank you for that crash course on
Yeah.
all 3 phases of SBIR.